Hello, everyone. Uh, I will introduce our teaching assistant. And this one on my left hand side is Xie Zixiang. And the middle one is Chen, Chen Hongquan. And the left side is Chen Henan. And if you have problems of, about doing assignments, you can use the teaching hours to go to the EC 8011, or you can write email to them if your time, if the, okay.哦，那我们这边要做什么调整？还是我去问？可以再帮我听一下。我这边过去好了。Okay. We are testing the microphone, and I have updated our course website. You can take a look. And I have announced the assignment 1. The due date is October 25. And later I will explain assignment 1. And this week we will have a quiz. And so make sure that you can log in the Ruvio. Ruvio is an app. You need to use the mobile phone to use Ruvio. And那我这边是暂停了还是？它这个系统，因为我已经把隔壁的声音拉到最低，可不可以按 on off 哪一个？可是这边是没有亮的。一般是说这台不要调了。哦，对，但是这个现在也不能讲，要不然对面。对啊，对面也在上课。还是不知道用这个会不会收到？哦，可是这个好像按着。这个他当初是可以讲，只是不知道隔壁会不会收到。他这样我按下。哦，按一下就可以了。老师要不要试试看？好，我去隔壁。Okay, and let's continue our class. And next week we Next week we have learned the literals. Oh. Next week we have learned the constant, and there are many types of constants, like the character. A character is enclosed by single quotes, and we also have another type of constant, which is string, and the string is enclosed by double quotes, and the character and the string are two different data types. So let's see this line. And for this line, we declare a variable whose name is symbol, and its data type is character. And we assign a character A as its initial value. And so this statement is called variable initialization. We declare a variable symbol of data type character, and we assign character A as its initial value. And when you do assignment, you need to ensure that the right-hand side and the left-hand side are of the same data type. For example, you cannot assign a string to a variable of a character variable. And the next example is we declare a variable fruit, and whose data type is string. And we assign the string mango as its initial value. And you see that on the right hand side is a is a string constant. And on the left hand side is a variable. And the variable is of data type string. So in C++, single quote and double quote have different meanings. You can only use single quote to quote one character, while you can use the double quote to quote many characters, including zero character. And next, I will introduce the escape sequence. And when you see a backslash is this operator, this symbol. And when you see this symbol, it tells the compiler that a special character, a special escape character is coming. For example, if the compiler sees this backslash, then the compiler expects that the coming character n is a special escape character, and here backslash n represents one character, and this sequence backslash n means new line. New line means you type the enter, like you type the enter. When you want to print a new line or in a screen, you can input the backslash n. And for example, if we you can try this by a simple program. For example, For example, I open a simple program to test. For example, I declare a variable fruit, and the data type is string. And the next line, I use cout to print the variable fruit, and since the initial value of fruit is mango, so we will see mango print in the screen. And let's compile and run this program. And you see that mango is printed in the screen. And if I want to print a line break or a new line, I can add a \n. Then a new line will be printed in the screen. You observe that behind mango there is one a new line, and you can add multiple new lines, as many as you want. For example, I add 3 new lines, then you will see 3 new lines in the screen. And you see after the mango, there are 3 new lines. And there are also other escape sequences. For example, the tab. And the tab is \t. And there are other sequences like single quote. For example, you want to print the single quote in your screen. And for example, you want to type double quote in your screen. And if you directly input the double quote, you will find the compiler will not able to compile your program because this is a syntax error. So what can we do if we want to include a double quote in our string? And the solution is you add a \/ before the double quote. Then the syntax will be legal. The compiler understands that \, double quote is 1 character. So in this time we can print mango in the string. And in this time we see that after mango there is a double quote. So if we want to include the double quote inside the double quotes, then we need to add a \. And similarly, if you want to print a single quote, and you need to add a \, before the single quote, and or you want to print a \, in a double quote. For example, I want to. For example, if I want to print a \, in a screen, and you only input 1 single \, then this is a syntax error, because the double quote will be an escape sequence, but the compiler cannot find another ending double quote, because when the compiler see one double quote. Then the compiler is expected to find a second double quote. But this time, the second double quote is an escape character. So the compiler cannot find the ending double quote. So this will yield a syntax error. And you see the warning and in the bottom window. There are two errors. And to fix this, we simply add. We simply input one more backslash, and this time the syntax will be correct. And we see that in this time we are able to print a backslash in the screen. So if you want to print backslash single quote or double quote, you need to add a backslash before the character. And there are two ways in C++ to deal with strings. For example, you can use this way. When you want to print a backslash, you need to write double backslash. But if you only want to input one backslash, C++ provide you another way to write this. You can, in front of the double quote, you can add a letter R. The R is in uppercase. And if you add a letter R in front of the double quote, then this syntax will automatically treat this one backslash as the real backslash. For this syntax, you don't need to input two backslashes. You only need to input one backslash. So we have two choices to deal with string. And the two ways represent the same string. And in this slide, I will introduce the naming constants. And it is also called declared constant or named constant. Named constant means we give a name to the constant. For example, in your program, temp, you might use temp to represent some numerical value. But the constant temp does not have a name. And we can use this naming constant to give a name to a constant. For example, we want to give a name pi to the constant 3.14159. And to do this, it is just like we declare a variable. Recall that we can use double pi to declare a variable pi of data type double. And we give 3.14 as its initial value. And we also add a keyword const. And here keyword const is a keyword in C++, and const means constant. It is called a modifier because it modifies the attribute of the variable being declared. So if we declare a variable pi in this way, then the value of the variable cannot be changed. So pi becomes a constant. So if we add the modifier, constant modifier, before a data type, then this means we are declare a named constant. And you might wonder that why do the constants need to have a name? We just use the constant. For example, we just use 10. Why do we need to use? Why do we need to give a name to the constant? And if because if you always use constants without names, and the readers of your program will not be able to what this constant means. But if you give names to the constants, the reader of your programs will be able to understand what you write. So it is important and a good habit to use naming constants. And if you see some source code on internet, you will find naming constants are very popular. Many professional programmers all use naming constants because naming constants will make your program readable. So it is a good habit to use naming constants. And next, I will introduce the precedence rules. And for example, for this expression, x plus y multiply z. And there are two operators. The first operator is plus. The second operator is multiply. And when the compiler sees two operators, which operator will be carried out first? The plus or the multiply? And this is determined by the precedence rules. When the compiler sees two operators, then the compiler will follow the precedence rules to determine which operator is carried out first. And for this example, the multiply will be carried out first. It is just like the ordinary mathematical arithmetic operations. The multiply will be carried out first, and then the plus operator. So this this expression is equivalent to we add a parenthesis around y multiply z. The two expressions are equivalent because we carry out multiply first and then the plus operator. We can use the parenthesis operator to change the precedence. For example, if we want plus to be carried out first, we can add a parenthesis around x plus y. Then x plus y will be carried out first. So we can use parentheses to change the precedence. And you might wonder what are the precedence rules of C++? And you can search C++ precedence. For example, I search C++ precedence. Then I go to the CPP reference. Then this website gives you a table of precedence. And in the top of the table is operators of higher precedence. For example, we find the operator plus, it is of precedence 6. If we, and the multiply operator is of precedence 5. So multiply is of higher precedence than the plus. So if plus and multiply appear in the same statement, then multiply will be carried out first because it is decided by the precedence rules of C++. And later we will come back to the precedence rules. And next, I will introduce integer and floating point division. And let's see this expression, 5 divided by 2. And the number before slash is called a numerator. And the number after the slash is called a denominator. And in C++, 5 divided by 2 is 2, not 2.5. And you might be very surprised why the result is 2 but not 2.5. And because the numerator is an integer, and the denominator is also an integer. So C++ will perform integer division. And the result of integer division is also an integer. So the result will be an integer, not a floating point. So the result is 2. It is actually 2.5, and you disregard the numbers after the decimal point. And you discard the numbers after the decimal point. And similarly, if we compute this expression, 11 divided by 3, the result will be an integer. The result is not 3.66. And the compiler actually discards the numbers after the decimal point. So integer division means integer in C++. Integer division means the numerator and the denominator are both integers. When the numerator and the denominator are both integers, then the compiler will perform integer division. And the result of integer division is also an integer. And I also list another example. And for example, you can check if you perform 5 divided by 2. The result is 2. And then you multiply 2. And we will get 4. And next, if we compute 5 modulo 2, then the result of 5 modulo 2 is 1. So 4 plus 1 equals 5. You can check. You can check this expression. And similarly, you can replace 5 with any integer. You will find this expression always equals the number you input. And next, let's see the floating point division. If either the numerator or the denominator is a floating point, if either the numerator or the denominator is a floating point, then the compiler will perform floating point division. For this example, the denominator is a floating point, while the numerator is an integer. And for this example, the C++ compiler will perform floating point division. And the result is also a floating point. The result is 2.5. And let's see another example. For example, let's consider this expression. 1 divided by 2 divided by 3.0. And for this example, we see there are two operators, There are two slashes. And by the precedence rules, the two operators are of the same precedence because they are the same operator. And the left operator will be carried out first. So the compiler will carry out 1 divided by 2 first. And recall that 1 divided by 2 is integer division because the numerator and the denominator are integers. So 1 divided by 2 is integer division. And you know the result is 0. So we have the the result of 1 divided by 2 is 0. And then the compiler will perform 0 divided by 3.0. And the result of 3 divided by 0 divided by 3.0 is also 0. And for the modular operator, and this operator can only work on the integer type. For floating point type, you cannot use the modular operator. And I suggest you that you can try to copy this expression to a simple program to see its output. Then you can change the numbers to see the result. And next I will introduce Pitfall, which means common mistakes. The common mistakes is the division with integers. And if you do not pay attention to integer division, you can easily made this type of pitfall. And I give an example. For example, if we declare an integer feet and assign 100 as its initial value. And next, we declare another variable, price1. Then we assign this expression as its initial value. And similarly, we also declare price2, and we give this expression as its initial value. And the two expressions are very similar. The only difference is that the denominator is a bit different. For price1, the denominator is a floating point, while for price2, the denominator is an integer. And you might at the first glance, you might think that price1 should be equal to price2, but the result is different. Let's compute price1. Let's compute price1, and we want to compute this expression. 300 multiply 300 multiply the parenthesis. Inside the parenthesis is feet divided by 30. And because the parenthesis, the division will be carried out first. If we do not add the parenthesis, multiply will be carried out first. But because we add parentheses, so the division will be performed before multiply. So the compiler first will compute feet divided by 30. And we know that this is floating point division or integer division. This is floating point division because the denominator is a floating point number. So the compiler will perform floating point division. And you know the answer is 1 divided by 3. Then you multiply 300, you get 1,000. sorry. The result is 10 divided by 3. And after you multiply 300, you get 1,000. And let's compute price 2. And the compiler will first compute feet divided by 30 because of the parentheses. And the result of feet divided by 30, we need to know whether this is integer division or floating point division. Because both the numerator and the denominator are integers, so this is integer division. And the result of integer division is also an integer. So the result of feet divided by 30 is 3. Not 3.33333. The result is an integer, it's 3. So price 2 is 300 times 3. And so price 2 is 900. And therefore, the values of price 1 and price 2 are different. Although their expressions are nearly the same. You see that the expression of for price 1 and price 2 are nearly the same. The only difference is the data type. The data type of the denominator. And this will give different results of price 1 and price 2. And this is a common mistake. If you did not pay attention, you might make such mistake. And such mistake is can cause the company to lose money, because if the real price is 1,000, but you only charge the customer 9,000, then you lose 100. So such pitfall will cause your company to lose money. So you must pay attention to such pitfall. And next, let's see. The next slide will introduce type casting. And let's see an example. For this example, we declare a variable average, and the initial value is score divided by count. And both score and count are integers. So on the right hand side, it is an integer, because on the right hand side, compiler will perform integer division. So on the right hand side is an integer, but on the left hand side is a floating point number average, and we will lose some precision, because, for example, if score is 10 and count is 3, then score divided by count, the answer is 3, not 3.33, because we perform integer division. So for this example, we will lose some precision, because on the right hand side is an integer, not a floating point. And the solution, there are many solutions. One solution is to change the data type of the numerator or the denominator. if we can change the data type of the numerator or the denominator to a floating point, then the right-hand side will be a floating point. So, for example, if we can change the numerator to a double, then compiler will perform floating point division. And how to perform, how to change the data type, and this is called typecasting in C++. For example, we can change the data type of score to double. And to do this, we need to input a keyword, static underscore cast, followed by angle brackets. Then you put the data type you want inside the angle brackets. And in this way, we can change the data type of score from integer to data type double. And because the numerator is of data type double, then compiler will perform floating point division. So on the right-hand side is a floating point number. And this time, we will not lose any precision. So in this time, we will not lose any precision. And there is another way to perform typecasting. And we have introduced, you can use static cast followed by angle bracket to perform C++ typecasting. There is another way you can doing the same typecasting. It's called C style. For C style, you can add a parenthesis before the variable. For example, if the numerator is int var1, and we want to change its data type to double, then you can add a parenthesis. And inside the parenthesis is the data type you want to cast. For example, in this example, we want to change the data type of int var1 to data type double. So you can use this way. You can use this syntax to convert the data type of int var1 from integer to double. And both of the two ways can be used to change the data type of a variable. But the textbook suggests you use the C++ style. The C++ style looks more ugly because it is longer, and the syntax is awful because the angle break looks ugly. But the textbook suggests you use the C++ style, and because this style has some benefits, and it is easy to search. If you want to search your program, where do you perform typecasting? You search static cast, you can quickly find where do you perform typecasting. But if you use the C style, it is very difficult. It is difficult to find where you perform such typecasting. And the second benefit is that the compiler will check the casting in compile time. when we compile a program, this is called compile time. When we execute a program, this is called the running runtime. So we have two periods. The first period is compile time. The second period is runtime. In compile time is when compiler translate your code into machine code, and in runtime the operating system runs your program. And if you use the C++ style, then in compile time, the compiler will check your statement. But if you use the C style, this statement will not be checked in compile time. It will be delayed to runtime, because in compile time, the compiler won't be able to check this statement is legal or not. So the second benefit is that the C++ style can be checked in compile time. It is better to check the error in compile time rather than in runtime, because if the error occurs in runtime, you have no chance to fix the error. But if you can find the error in compile time, you have the chance to fix the error. And let's take a break for 10 minutes. And the next class we will take a quiz, so you can check whether you can log in to the Ruvio app. Compiler. If you cannot install the compiler ID in your computer, you can also use this one. And use the online. There is some online compilers. For example, you can the 3link. So this is same. You need to install. You don't need to install the software. You just type your code in the browser, and you can execute the code in browser.
Copy that and send it to the mail of the
Yes. But in this way, you need to save this in a file. The file extension is CPP, .cpp. Yes, you need to copy this code into a file.
and then email to.
Yes, Store, you can search the App Store. You search Rubio, then you install this app, and you can log with your student ID. Your account will be this one, and the default password is 123. And then you can use this account and password to log into the Rubio app. Then you can find our course. It might be in Chinese, I don't know. Might not be English, but you can check the course code. The course code is this number. Yes, if you cannot find the course, you can manually input the course code. So if you have any problem, you can ask me. No. Yes. It's an assignment is a web page. You can click this link to see the assignment, and later I will explain how to do this assignment. Yes. It's okay. But when sending assignment, you need to save this in a file, and the file extension should be CPP. File name.
To download it.
I can show you. For example, I copy this code and I open, and you can open any text editor. You can use any text editor. For example, I paste the code and you save, and you need to change the file extension. So you should select this one. And for example, this is. So you need to specify the file extension to be CPP. And you can send this when you need to send the assignment to you. Send this file. You can use any text editor to open this file. So your password is not. Yes. You cannot. Or then you can create a new account. And use your real name. Wow. Because I need to Hello everyone. Let's continue our class. And next, we will take a quiz, and we will use the Ruvio app. But if you don't, if you are not able to log in the Ruvio, it's okay. I will send papers. You can write down your answers on paper. So please raise your hand if you cannot log in the Ruvio app. Please raise your hand. So please raise your hand if you cannot log in the Ruvio app. Please raise your hand. Okay. And the server might have some problem, and many cannot log into the. Oh, let's wait. Please raise your hand if you cannot log into the system. Oh, okay. Hello, please. Yes. If you can log, I did. If you can log in, it's okay because I have not opened the question. I have not opened the question. No. Yes. If you can write on the paper. Write. The first question, if you can log into the Ruvio, then you can see the first question. The first question is, what is the main purpose of a compiler? There are 4 choices, and only one choice is correct. And remember to write down your name and your student ID if you are writing the answer on paper. Yes. Oh, sorry. Let's wait. Yes. I find because if I directly scroll down, you will see other students' answer. Yes. I will find a question on my computer. Maybe let's postpone the quiz to the next hour. And because I cannot find the questions on my computer, so let's postpone this quiz. And so let's postpone this quiz to the next hour. After I find the question on my computer. And let's continue our class. And in the and next, I will introduce another operator in C++. And I will introduce the increment operator. The plus is an operator. The consecutive double plus is one operator. And this operator has the effect of the is equivalent to this statement. So n plus plus is equivalent to n plus 1. You assign n plus 1 to n. So n plus plus is a shorthand notation to represent you assign n plus 1 to n. And similarly, there is another operator called decrement operator. And this operator is minus minus. So n minus minus is equivalent to you assign n minus 1 to the variable n. So the two operators are shorthand notations. It is okay that if you are not required to use the two operators. But there to use these operators, you must be pay attention. If when you use this operator with other expression, you need to pay attention. For example, this one. And this one, in this one we have the we need to compute 2 multiply parentheses n plus plus. And in this example, there are 3 operators. The first operator is assign. The second operator is multiply. The third operator is plus plus. So in this example, we have 3 operators. And which operators will be carried out first? And this is determined by the precedence rule. And according to the precedence rule, the operator inside the parentheses will be carried out first. So the compiler will first compute n plus plus. And the initial value of n is 2. So after the compiler compute n plus plus, then the value of n becomes 3. And then the compiler will carry out the second operator. Do we have any question? and the compiler will carry out, because the precedence of multiply is higher than the equal than the assign. So the compiler will compute assign. So the computer will compute 2 multiply n. But this time we will have a problem, because the value is n is 3 or 2. When we want to compute 2 multiply n plus plus, we face a problem. What is the value of n? The value of n is 2 or 3. You need to pay attention to that. You need to pay attention that you write n plus plus or plus plus n. The result will be different. For single statement, you use n plus plus, you use n plus plus or plus 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 n, makes no difference. If for this simple expression, you use n plus plus or plus plus n, makes no difference. But for the example, for this example, the result will be different. For n plus plus and plus plus n, the result will be different. And we are facing a problem that what is the value inside the parentheses? It is 2 or 3. And for post increment, post means the plus plus is after n. This is called post. If double plus is before n, then this is called pre-increment. So the position of the plus plus operator will affect the results. And if the double plus operator is after the variable, then this is called a post increment. If the double plus is in front of a variable, then this is called a pre-increment. And let's return to this expression. We see that this is a post increment because the double plus is after n. So this is post increment. And 2 multiply post increment. So inside the parentheses, the value of n is 2. Inside the parentheses, because it is called post. Post means added by 1 is performed post. So the 2 will times 2. Then after this, n will be added by 1. So for this example, time will multiply 2. So the value of m is 4. Then after this statement, n will be added by 1. And for the next example, 2 is multiplied by the value of 3, because it is pre-increment. Pre-increment means you perform the increment first. So n will be increased to 3 first. Then 3 is multiplied by 2. So for the for this line, m is 2 times 3. So for this example, the value of m is 3. And if we compare the two examples, we see that the value of n is the same. It is 2 plus 1. But the value of m is different because post-increment and pre-increment will affect the value of the variable. So when you see such usage, you must pay attention to the value inside the parentheses, and it is not recommended to use post and pre-increment in your code, because if you use post-increment or pre-increment very often, and this will make your code very hard to read. You need to figure out which expression is carried out first. So I suggest do not use post-increment and pre-increment in your code. And if you really want to write this statement, you can write it in 2 lines. For example, if you want to write this statement, you can divide it into 2 steps. You can write suppose we want to perform this statement, and this statement is called pre-increment because we increase n first, and then 2 will multiply the value of n plus 1, and then assign it to m. And this statement is hard to read. It's not clear. So it is better that you to separate this statement into 2 steps. The first is you add 1 to n. So or you can write n equals n plus 1. You can assign n plus 1 to n. And then after you perform, you add 1 to n, then you perform this assignment statement, and you can see out the value of m and n. And here, end L means a new line. End of line means new line. And you can you can try to write the two statements and print the variables to see the value of the variables. So for this example, after the two statements, the value of m is 6, and the value of n is 3. And you can and the 2/ means common. I comment out the line. So, and if the result will be equivalent to this single statement. So you see the result is the same. The result is also m is 6, n is 3. And you can try before if you change the pre-increment to post-increment, the value of m will be changed. And if we compile again, you see the value of m is 4, not 6. In the previous example, the value of m is 6. So the result of post-increment and pre-increment are different. And if you want to write, we can also divide this statement into two statements. It is equivalent to you perform the assignment first and then add it 1 to n. Now, let's compile again. And you see that I divided this statement into two statements, and the result is the same. The value of m is 4, and the value of n is 3. So it is more clear to write your code in this way, rather than using the pre-increment or post-increment operators. So if you want to write clean code, then I suggest that do not use the increment and the decrement operators, because it might cause confusions. And it is more clear to divide your code into divide the increment statement into the two statements. In this way, your code is more readable. And you are suggested to test the operators or expressions inside the IDE and the compile and to see the result. I think this is the best way for you to understand these operators. You can change the values of the variable, or you can change the sequence of the statements, and to see the output. What is the output? And for this, you can use this method to learn the operators in the slides. Next, let's talk about comments. And we have seen the single line comments. The single line comment is begin with 2/. And the text after the 2 slashes will be regarded as comments. And there is another way to write comments. This is multiple line comments. And multiple line comments begins with a slash and a star symbol. And the multiple lines comments, you need to end. If you want to end the multiple line comments, you need to input the star symbol and a slash. And the contents between the contents between the two star symbols are comments. And you can choose. Both can be used to write comments. And I have some suggestions about writing comments. The best comments are no comments. It is if your code is clean enough, then you don't need to write any comments. And I will give an example. For example, I want to compute the final score, and the final score is the score is multiplied by some weight, and we can code a function to get the weight, and the final score is some weight multiply the score, and you can also write this statement as this way. For example, you use different file name. You use fs to represent the final score, and you use s to represent score, and you use wp to represent weight parameters, and you will find this statement is more difficult to read. You will find this statement is difficult to read because you need to guess what is the meaning of S, what is the meaning of WP, what is the meaning of FS, and as a result, you might need to write comments to describe the purpose of S. For example, you might need to write comments to describe S is the input score, WP is a variable contains parameters for computing weights, and you might need to describe FS is the final score. But these comments are not necessary. The three lines of comments are not necessary, because if you properly choose your file name, your variable name, if you properly choose your variable name, then you don't need to write comments. So the best comments are no comments. It is better that your program does not contain any comments, but other people still are able to understand your code. And this is called clean code. So one element of clean code is to give meaningful names to your variables. So avoid writing your code like this way. So avoid writing unnecessary comments. And it is recommended that you choose meaningful variable names or function names instead of writing comments. And we have finished the second. Let's just see the outline of this slide. And we have finished the first and the second parts. And let's go to the third part, console input and output. And I have introduced this simple example. I have introduced how to use cout. For example, if you want to print some string in your console window, you can use this statement. And if you want to print a new line, you can use the backslash and \n to print a new line in your screen. And another way to print a new line in your screen is to use endl. This is a variable defined in iostream library. And endl is easier to type. It's easier to type than \n. So some programmers prefer using endl to represent new line. Next, I will introduce cin. I will skip this slide because later we will learn string, so I will skip this slide. But if you are interested, you can take a look at this slide. And I will also skip this slide, and due to time efficiency. And next, I will introduce cin. Cin means console input. We want to read the input from console. For example, we want to read the user. We want to read the inputs from a user. Then we can use cin. Cin is like cout. It is defined in the iostream library. And for example, if dog name is a variable, suppose we have declared a variable called dog name, and we want to let users to input values and save this value in the variable dog name. Then we can use this statement cin and followed by the greater than, two greater than operator. And you know the direction of the angle bracket. The direction of the angle bracket is from left to right. This means we are directed the inputs to the variable dog name. So you note the direction of the angle brackets. It is from left to right because we are directed the console inputs to dog name, to the dog name variable. And for cout, the direction of the angle brackets is from right to left because we are directed this string into the cout console output. So you can use this way to understand the direction of the angle brackets. It is different for cin and cout. And you can try to copy these statements into the a simple program and compile to see the result. And for example, if I copy the statements and so let's see the let's execute this program, and this program will first print what is your dog's name, because I print this string in the screen, and then the program will execute cin to greater than dog name, and this statement will let the users to input strings. So in the console window, I can type any string. Or for example, I type for example, I type foo. Then after if you want to finish your input, then you type enter. You type enter, then your input is finished. Then what you type is foo. Then foo will be assigned to the variable. The foo will be saved in the variable dog name. So now dog name will have the value foo. And then the next statement, cout, it will cout high, the high string, and cout print the value of dog name. And we see that in the screen, it prints high, and now the value of dog name is foo. Is is my input. So the value of dog name is foo. So it prints high foo and a new line, and the program terminates. You can try to use this simple program to understand the cin and cout, and you can modify the code to understand how to use cin and cout. And if you want to use cin and cout, you need to include the IO string library. And I also use a data type string. So I also need to include the string library. The data type string is not the simple type. Because it is not the simple data type, so we need to include the string library in order to use the data type string. And that's finally the last slide is namespace. And you might wonder why every C++ program need to use this statement using namespace std. And the using and namespace are both keywords. They are keywords in the C++ programming language. And std means standard. Std is a predefined word. It is not a keyword, but it is a predefined word. Std stands for standard. And this statement, if you use this statement, this means every variable in this program will be prefixed by std. So like this one, if you use this statement in your program, this means every statement, every variable will prefixed by the std. And there will be operator, the double column operator between the namespace and the variable. So let's see this example. If I comment this statement, then we are not able to compile this problem. You will some error message. You will show some very for example, if I comment out this statement, then there is one error in the 7th line, line 7. It says that string was not declared in this scope. This means the compiler does not understand what string is. And you need to prefix std to string. Then the compiler will understand this statement. And the next error is CL was not declared in this scope, because the compiler does not understand what CL is. And to solve this, you need to prefix std in front of CL. And similarly, you need to prefix every variable with std. Then the compiler was able to compile your code. And in fact, end L is also a variable, so you also need to prefix std to end L. And in the end, we are able to compile the program. But you will find it is very tedious to add std to every variable in your program. It is very tedious. So if you use this statement using namespace std, then you don't need to prefix every variable with std. And you might wonder why do we need to prefix std? Because if you write a big program, for example 1,000 lines or more, and the variable name you defined may be the same with variable names defined by others. So you will have conflicts with the variable names, because the other programmer might have used the same variable name as yours. And if you want to compile your program and the other programmer's code into the same program, then the compiler will have conflicts, because the compiler will see will see identical variable names. And to address this problem is we can introduce namespace. For example, my own code, I can introduce namespace to my own code. For example, I can in my code I can introduce the namespace as CPW. Then the other person, if he want to he want to use the variable name string, he can create his own namespace. For example, he can For example, in my program, I can define CPW to be the namespace, and the other programmer, he can define DVD, his own namespace as DVD. Then we can use the same variable name string, and this will not cause conflict if the compiler want to merge my program and the other programmers' programs. Although we use the same variable name string, but because our namespace is different, so the two variables are actually different, because they belong to different namespace. And this is why C++ introduced the namespace mechanism. And you might skip this part if you find it very difficult to understand. If you find this difficult to understand, you can just use this use this statement in your program. And let's take a break for 10 minutes. Hello everyone. Let's continue our class, and we will take a quiz. And you can log in to your Ruvio app. Sorry. And for the first question, the first question is, what is the purpose of a compiler? And the only one choice is correct. And you can see the slides in the previous week to find the answer. And you have 2 minutes to answer this question. After 2 minutes, I will turn off this question. You have 2 minutes to answer this question. After 2 minutes, I will turn off this question. And remember to write down your student ID and name besides the answers. Is everyone is finished? If yes, I will go to next question. How everyone is finished. Okay, I will go to the next question. The second question is select the false statements. There are four statements, and one of them is false. And we have 2 minutes to answer this question. Uh, 20 seconds left. And I will turn off this question if you still not choose the answer. I will close this question. The third question is, there are three variable names, and which one is legal? If no one is legal, you select the fourth choice. So which one is a legal variable name? Variable name are also called identifier, and you can review the slides in the previous week. And I will close this question after 30 seconds. Time is up, so I will close the question. And before announce the answers, I will collect the papers. So please raise your hand if you use papers to write the answers. Okay. Student ID. Oh, okay. And we will let's see the answer. Is anybody have problem when you use Ruvio to take the quiz? If no, let's see the answers. And the first question, let's see what is the purpose of a compiler? And most people select choice 3, and choice 3 is the correct answer. The purpose of a compiler is to translate source code into a machine executable. And we don't use compiler to write program. We use text editors to write program. And the compiler is not to execute program. It is the operation system that execute programs. So the previous one are not the purpose of a compiler. And let's see the second question. We need to select the false statement, and the false statement is the fourth statement. semantic errors can be detected by compilers. And we have already known compiler can detect syntax errors. But semantic error is, but compilers cannot know our intention. And semantic errors is due to the inconsistency between our intention and what we write. And the compiler cannot know our intention. So semantic error cannot be detected by compilers. And thus, semantic errors are difficult to find. So most people, most of you choose the correct answer. And the third question is which identifier is a legal one? And the correct answer is 2. The second one is a legal identifier. The first one is illegal because there is a dot. There is a dot symbol in the variable name, and this is not legal. And the third one is also not legal because the digits cannot begin. The variable cannot begin with digits. The digits cannot be in the beginning of a variable name. And it is legal to start with the underscore. And the underscore can be used in defining a variable name. So the correct answer is the second one. And if you are not familiar with the naming of a variable, you can review the slides of the previous week. And is anybody have questions about the quiz? And if no, I will introduce assignment 1. And after today's lecture, you are able to complete assignment 1. To complete assignment 1, you only need to know how to declare variable, how to perform arithmetic operations. If you know this, if you know how to do this, then you are able to complete assignment 1. So let's see assignment 1. Let's see the rules for sending assignments. And if you go to the website, and this part introduces how to send your assignments. And you can see this web page. But if you don't want to see this web page, you can use this link. You just use this link. Then after you open this link, then you attack your assignment. And for example, I create a file. For example, I create a file. After you finish your assignment, and suppose the file name of your file is your student ID, and you can use you can follow by an underscore. You can follow by underscore and the other words. But the most important thing is that you need to include your student ID in the file name. And your file name should be ended with .cpp. And if you are using online, if you are using online compiler, for example, if you are using online compilers to write the assignments, you can copy your code. Then you open any text editor, then paste your code to the text editor. Then you choose save. And you need to select the save file type. And the save file type is .cpp. So you in this you need to choose all files. The file type you need to choose all types, all files. And the file name, you need to enter your student ID. And the file name, you need to then .cpp. Then we can use the link. We can use this link to send the assignment. And you click this email link. Then you attack the file we just saved. You click your this CPP file. And you can also include your name in the email content. For example, you can type your name. Then you can send, after attack the CPP file and your name, then you can send this email. Okay. Oh, okay. It's okay in Chinese. Okay, it's okay. What service? Attach. Oh, okay. Sorry. And any problem? And following are some rules about the assignments. You can take a look at the rules. And the assignments are designed for beginners, and you should be able to finish the assignments independently. If you have any problem doing assignments, you can use the TA hours to contact the teaching assistants. And we will use program to check plagiarism. So it is prohibited to copy the programs of other students. It is strictly prohibited. You can discuss how to find the solutions of the programs with your classmates, but you cannot see their code. You cannot see their program. You can discuss the assignment with your classmates, but you are not allowed to see their code or their programs. And I recommend that you send your assignments as early as possible. Because every week I will announce the accuracy of your program. And if your accuracy is not 100%, then you have a chance to fix the mistakes. You just resend your assignments. So if you send your assignments as early as possible, then you will have a chance to fix the mistakes. And you can the deadline is October 25. So you have to pay attention to the deadline because late assignments will not be accepted. And I will announce the accuracy of your program on the course website every week. So every week you can go to the course website to see the accuracy of your assignment. And let's see assignment 1. And this assignment requires you to write a program, and the user will input an integer. This integer represent minutes, and your program will convert this integer into the smallest number of months, days, hours, and minutes. And for example, this is an example. And the user input 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you need to convert this number. This number is in minutes. You need to convert this number into the smallest number of months, days, hours, and minutes. And here I assume all months have 30 days. And later, and I give more examples. You can click this link to see more input-output samples. And after you finish your program, and you had better test your program with the input-output samples given here. And for example, the following example is not correct. Suppose the user input 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this number corresponds to the following. And this example is not correct because in this example, it outputs 37 hours. And this is not the smallest number. The smallest number is 20. The correct way is the correct way is like this. 24 hours is corresponds to a day. So you need to minus 24 and add 1 day to this number. So this example is incorrect because the number of hours is not smallest. The correct number, the correct output is like this one. And And you can click this link to see more examples. And there, it is important that your outputs, the outputs of your program should be exactly the same as those in the input-output samples. Exactly the same means every output character, including space, new lines, punctuation, and letters, should be identical to those in the input-output samples. And I can show you how to check. For example, I also provide a code template, and it is recommended that you modify the code template to complete assignment. And let's see the code template. And you can download this code template. And you can open this template. And this is the code template. You only need to insert your code in this location. And for example, you can use modify the template like this. For example, you can I add my own code here. Then you are able to compile the program. For example, I type 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it will output 0 months, 0 days, 0 hours, 0 minutes, because the variables, the initial values of variables are all zeros, and I didn't perform any operations on the variables, so the output will be all zeros, and you have to do some arithmetic operations to compute to output the correct value. So you need to perform some arithmetic operations. And I also suggest that you change the variable name. You can change it to meaningful variable names. For example, you can change the variable name to if you change, you can change the variable 1 to input minutes to give a meaningful variable name. And it is important that you do not modify the string inside the double quote. For example, you cannot delete a space. For example, you cannot add a new line operator because you change the output format, and my program used to evaluate your assignments cannot handle incorrect output formats. So make sure that you do not modify the strings inside the double quote. And below are some examples. For example, this line is in the code template, and if you delete one space, then the output format is not legal. It is not correct. So delete one space is incorrect, and you cannot also remove the end of line. Because you will also change the output formats, and you cannot also add system pause. If you use dev C++, you might use system pause, and this will output a new line in the screen. So using system pause is also illegal. And it is also not legal to output more new lines. So the best way to complete the assignment is to modify the code template, but remember not to change the string inside double quotes. Remember not to change the string. And also the new line, the end of L. You cannot output more new lines or more space. It will cause the output format to be illegal. And after you compile this code, if you go to the file folder, you will see, for example, you will see assignment 1 template modified .exe or .cpp or .o. Then you need to send the CPP file. You need to rename, or you need to rename or save to another file. For example, if you want to send this assignment, you need to change the file name. You need to change the file name to your student ID. And then you can send this file. You can use the email link to attach this file. And if you have any question about assignments, you can use the TA hour, or you can contact me. And so to complete this assignment, you can download the code template and modify the code template. And make sure that your program, the outputs of your program should be exactly the same as those in the input-output samples. And I will report the accuracy of your program in the course website. So every week before our class, you can see the accuracy of your assignments. And if your accuracy is not 100%, then you have a chance to resend your assignments. we still have some time, so we can go to the next chapter. And the next week is National Day holiday, so next week we won't have a class. And let's see the next chapter. In this chapter, we will learn flow of control. We will learn the branching. We will learn branching mechanism and loops. We will learn the if-else statement, switch statement, and these statements belong to branching mechanisms. And we will also learn how to control loops, and including for, while, and do while statements. And first, we will introduce the Boolean expression. And recall that an expression is some arithmetic operation that yields a value. And the Boolean expression is a special expression because the value of a Boolean expression is either true or false. And the following are examples of Boolean expression. And we compare A with B. This expression is A is greater than B. Then the compiler will evaluate this expression. If this expression is true, then it will yield a value. It will yield a value 1 or 2. In C++, true is equal to 1. And false is equal to 0. And this one is also a Boolean expression. And we will introduce this later. And for example, we can also consider this example. We can compare 0 and false. And this expression will yield a value 1 or 2 because false is identical to 0. And if you compare 1 and 2, this expression compares 1 and 2. And the value, it yields a value 1 or 2. You can use a simple program to check this. For example, you can see out. For example, we can see out 1 equal 1 equal 2. We need to include a parenthesis. Okay. Oh. And if we print the value of e equal to true, then the compiler, the console outputs 1, because this expression is true. Because true is 1, is integer 1 in C++ language. But if you change 1 to number 2, then the answer will be different. It outputs 0. Because true is 1, true is integer 1, and 1 is not equal to, and therefore this expression yields 0. So this is a Boolean expression. It yields either 1 or 0. So the third example yields a value false, because 2 is not equal to true, and because the value of true is integer 1, and 2 is also not equal to false, because false is integer 0, and 0 is not equal to 2. And time is up, and let's stop here.